Thank you, ma'am. Well, I didn't snap my fingers. I pointed. But anyway.
That was good.
My assistant.
I can't do that.
Okay, so basically our current issue with NCDOT is that our current zoning regulations, I did misquote the other night, the curb and gutter and sidewalk and those sorts of requirements, particularly on the right and left side of the street, went into effect in 2019, not 2017. So it's relatively new. But we require them on both sides of the street where development takes place. If a development is occurring on only one side of the street, then of course the improvement goes on your side of the street where the improvement is happening. And then when it happens on the other side of the street, you know, fair is fair and it goes everywhere it's supposed to go. While safety may have been a consideration, I'm going to tell you that appearance is the primary motivation behind installing the elements of a complete street. And the issue that we're coming up with is that in many of our conditional zonings, one of the conditions is that the sidewalk, curb, and gutter has to be installed on a street that is actually NCDOT owned and maintained. And this becomes a little bit of a problem. 99% of our new development is currently taking place on property that involves exiting an NCDOT street to enter or to leave newly developed town streets. So we do not control the DOT street. The bigger issue, I'm sorry, if you can go to the next slide, there's a not the best map that I've ever commissioned. I'm going to say that the party that made it for me is doing her level best to put up with my personal quirk. Excuse me.
Did she catch everything?
No, she did not, and that's where I was going to go next. She did not catch everything, and that is part of the issue. But just on this very map, we have 2,535 structures that are proposed for development. Most of these streets have a current 55-mile-an-hour speed limit posted out in the areas that are not contiguous to our borders. And these subdivisions are located at, near, or around. And the reason why this detail is important to me, and I believe it should be important to you, is that we have hit a little bit of a snag. I understand very clearly the need, thank you. I understand very clearly the need to put in this curb, gutter, and sidewalk. But if the speed limit is posted at 55 or greater, it is considered to be a traffic hazard. The idea with a curb is that when you hit it through your careless driving, a few texters in the house or a few people who've looked down at the phone or been distracted by somebody in the car, if you've ever had your anti-crash system come on and give you a nice hi, how you doing on your little GPS screen, this is happening because you are nearing a curb and you're getting ready to hit it. You will be airborne if you're driving above 55 miles an hour. If you're airborne and you come down and hit a pedestrian or a bicyclist, we have a much worse problem than an unattractive entrance to a subdivision. With that in mind, our zoning ordinance requires, the requirement only works in a location where DOT has dropped the posted speed limit to 45. Now, when I was a child, if y'all go to the next page, I'm going to tell you a little childhood story because I think this is important to you. There was a game, and if you were around a bunch of schoolyard bullies, you learned a game called Keep Away. Well, I've been engaged in about a 4-month game of Keep Away with NCDOT. So they have said that they will drop the speed limit below 55 miles an hour if the land on both sides of their street is annexed into corporate limits uniformly, and then we follow a very convoluted and quite difficult process to get them to lower the speed limit. There are no guarantees this is going to work, and I will list 2 neighborhoods in about a second that actually it has been told we're not going to get to do it, and jumping through the hoops does not get you permission to install this curb and gutter. It's called a great idea, but it falls apart when you have a high-speed road. It gets worse when your 55-mile-an-hour speed limit is the on-ramp to the bypass that is under construction. They are not dropping the speed limit down to 25 or 35 as you enter a bypass taking you around the major portion of the city. So I guess you can see
because of the way it's constructed.
Yes, sir. The whole idea is it's faster. It brings more cars by you, which brings you more people you can potentially attract to your merchant attractions outside of the bypass area. When they get done shopping on this brand new corridor, they can also discover our very attractive and very, very active and vibrant downtown. So you've got more people coming by who are not creating their own bypass by using a less traveled road. But the problem is they want to do it at a higher speed. And with that in mind, they're not going to drop it. They are willing to conduct traffic studies if necessary to justify their position. And they did conduct one between Easley's Pond and Vaughn Farms. And their conclusion at the end of that study is this is not suitable for a reduction in speed limit. Now, they fit the criteria to declare 55 miles an hour the appropriate speed. And just for the sake of folks who haven't spent their life in transportation planning, when you see 55 as the posted speed, the expectation is you're going 65. You will be operating a vehicle at no less than 65. If you see a neighborhood where it's 20, they really think you're going to be going 30. That's the whole idea. So streets are designed for 10 miles or more above the posted limit. With that in mind, having someone hit a curb at 65, they will be airborne. So let's go to the next slide. Our ordinance allows the planning director to waive the requirement during development if the improvements aren't practicable. But they say that it is a recommendation. What is not clear in our ordinance is who am I recommending this to? So my recommendation for that situation would be to amend it to either require Board of Commissioners approval for this waiver as a condition of the subdivision, or the ordinance needs to exempt the requirement along stretches of street where it is impossible to get the speed limit dropped. You do realize at a later date when they drop the speed limit, they're going to point you in the direction of CMAC and LAP, the two programs that pay for sidewalks on main thoroughfares along NCDOT. So they're not going to buy the argument there's no way to put a sidewalk out there. Our argument can be, should be, was probably that the developer should pay the cost of their new development. The problem is, in this case, it's a swing and a miss. And I'm engaged in a pointless conversation with DOT at the moment about trying to, it's become more and more novel as we go along. And at the end of the conversation, it's still, I'm not guaranteeing you air in a jug. You simply get the chance to come up and try your luck. I think that that is a losing strategy, and it is putting at least two developers who may actually be the same developer behind on their project. Both Vaughn and Easley seem to have the same home builder, and that home builder met with me on the phone and said, I am being held up from site preparation by something that can't happen. So I'm going to say...
Is that on 210?
It's 55.
55? Okay.
Yes. So...
Question, I'm sorry to interrupt. So if the board decides not to allow this or whatever, if we don't do this, is it something that we could do as a payment in lieu of?
If they were to make a fee in lieu, I would make the recommendation that that fee go to our recreation program. I think missing from our current fee schedule is a very set and very competitive athletic program contribution per lot. The last place that I worked, it was $4,000 per lot. The town of Cary is significantly higher. The city of Raleigh is significantly higher. And those funds are a fee in lieu that ends up straight in recreation programs. It front loads them, it also back loads them.
But wouldn't you have to do that uniformly?
Absolutely.
So that doesn't really help that much for the lots that need to have sidewalk, but can't.
Well, the sidewalk inside of the subdivision can be covered by a performance bond until it's installed. But,
which we've done.
But you cannot do that on a highway. It's not lawful. Ran it past the attorney last night.
Interestingly, the advertising place beyond Jimmy's place out there, we had to exempt them because it didn't make any sense because they were a mile or two out of town and just have a little segment of concrete there.
If you run, I'm sorry though, but if you run back to our map, nearly every single one of these is going to be disconnected for a bit of time. So what I'm saying is, as they eventually join hands, and I actually see Coble Farms missing right off the top of the bat there. You got Sherry Downs at the top, but you don't have Coble Farms at the bottom. So bottom line is, yes, we did miss a few subdivisions. What I'm driving at is, at the moment, while the speed limit is what it is an impossibility. At a later time when it becomes a way to finish it out or to join sidewalks, then it becomes a better project. Right now, I feel like we have such a laundry list to get out as we're getting if we're getting something approved. I'm concerned that we're going to run into another case where we've got neighbors across the street from each other, but there's also a donut hole that is not in the town limits. And DOT pointed straight at it and said, how are you going to annex that? I wasn't aware we had to annex that. Our conversation was, when both sides of the road are inside the city limits, you're automatically available. Well, no, we got that answer yesterday. So it's just a continuing frustration. I would like better guidance, or I would like to amend the ordinance to make it easier to use, or I would like you all as a body to simply get into the habit of saying, this section doesn't work, this isn't practicable, we are holding this up, let's just move on. We'll do it later. That is literally where we are on that.
Is it the sense of the board that we ought to refer this to Dan to assist in seeing what we can do?
That would please me.
Everybody? Junior, you okay? Somebody hit him.
I'm fine with it, Bob.
Okay.
All I wanted to hear. Thank you so much. Next slide. Okay. Veronica. Thank you, madam. Okay. So the other thing that I discovered when I got here is we have an amazing amount of conditional zoning in R6. One of the head-on collisions between incredibly small lots and living in a place that is going from somewhat rural to a very, very highly urbanized area, but more particularly when you look at the future land use map, if you don't designate an area as high density, you're telling me as a 20-year in the business planner, what I meant was 10,000 square foot lots. I didn't mean 6,000 square foot lots. I understand the magic potion for making it happen, but there's other pieces of the magic potion in our ordinance as it is, and that's what I want to introduce you to tonight.
Well, what happened here was
Please, Philip.
RH, our former mayor, always said that you got to get up to 10,000 population. I don't know if that's 12,000 now, but he said before commercial or other interests will look at you. So the idea became we got to get up to 10,000 before commercial will look at us. Wow. So the R6 was a start. The R6 conditional is a step away from that. And then maybe R8 or some kind of R10 would be the next step.
Let me throw something out.
He's in favor of that.
When you're doing conditional, or not conditional, but when you're doing economic development, you actually use an electronic version of the old-timey compass. You're literally sticking a stick and putting a pencil out here and you're drawing a circle, because you are not drawing on the existing population. You are feeding within a ring. I gave a map to Casey the other day. I gave her a map that gave the 2 mile, the 5 mile, the 15, including population, with the idea in mind that when you go out looking for a project to land here, in my experience in economic development, which I have about 15 years in, I'm going to tell you that you start looking at who you can attract from somewhere else, and then you find out what that particular retailer or that merchant or that restaurant or that tap room, where their overlap is between similar ones. Like McDonald's, it's 5 miles.
Okay.
So there's that.
Two things.
Yes.
One, I understand from our legislative folks that the legislature is not approving any more ETJ extensions.
I'm excited about that. Go ahead. I'm not a lover of ETJ.
Okay.
When you stopped being able to do involuntary annexation at the drop of a hat, it became almost meaningless to me.
Okay. The one other factor, which is not necessarily prevalent in all cases, though, is You have to have somewhere for the people to live who can't afford a $600,000 house.
I understand that.
And so the R6, I think, was pushed along with that to some extent. Now, at what point do you modify that?
You should price those. Let me just say I was rather surprised at the price point of some of our 6,000 square foot units. So, and particularly the conversations I've had with the builders. Moving right along, it's the smallest lots in our ordinance. They represent high density development. R8 is a bridge between the two, and I do appreciate you bringing it up. I didn't include it in the slide. R6 makes more sense as an infill zoning category, as demonstrated most recently by Mr. Gregory, who came in and needed to make more in a small neighborhood where he's doing an infill. That area is actually slated in the land use plan as redevelopment and infill. It's clear as day. Those two words are actually in the picture. So this property and this rezoning was exactly in line with that. 6,000 is also an option within planned development. If you go into our current ordinance, go to 4.11.6 for segments of housing, regardless of underlying zoning. So when you put a planned development in, one of the features of a mixed-use planned development is you can have a small number of 6,000 square foot lots in there. That does not take
or a small number of R8s.
Yes.
Which increases the, okay.
There you go. The idea with planned unit development, for one thing, is that you're sort of cramming things tight and keeping wider open spaces. But let's just keep going. I'm not going to teach a zoning class if I can help it. But conditional zoning is also difficult to administer because each and every plat has its own instructions, and I've actually sat two plats side by side discerning the difference between the two on the telephone with somebody who is pushing me for answers. It is not a good, quick conversation. It's really I've got to get back with you tomorrow after I read the 4 pages of information I have in front of me about this question. So if you go to the next piece, there has been a preference, stated at least to me by individuals on your board, for a R10 single-family residential lot or 4 units per acre to be it needs to be reflected in straight zoning of R10 for the majority, or R8, which is a great compromise. So we could certainly amend that. R10 allows for townhouses to be built under very clear conditions. You get a special use permit, you select a section that you're going to put townhouses in. We have one of those right now on 210. The school, Jimmy, I'm struggling. What's the school? The school road down there by the subdivision, the new one we're talking about, way down. 210, heading down toward Lillington.
The high school?
Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so there's a subdivision coming through there. It is a straight R10 because they were looking at R30 before, but they have a segment where there are somewhere between 22 and 48 townhouses literally as soon as you come in. This developer wants a mix of housing. That's possible in the R10 straight zone. So I'm saying it's possible that we're overlooking some super low-hanging fruit. Staff recommendation, and if you want to build a duplex anywhere that you have an R10, you simply have to have twice the space. It's quite simple.
Well, you are fighting against the R10 or R30 homeowner who wants to come in and preserve the value of the house that they spent all their life savings building.
I'm not battling it all.
Along with an R6 next door. So.
Oh, no. Are you aware we have one of those live at this moment?
I know. I'm saying it's not an ideal situation.
No.
It's a transition situation.
Right. Well, and the particular question this gentleman brought to my desk was, why is this happening to me? I don't know, but what I can tell you is it is currently zoned for that density, and I'm thrilled you had a really large lot. I can't help the fact that our ordinance, as this came into our area that we actually dictate the zoning to, R6 was chosen, and there you are. So you can have 3 lots next to you. You know, he was talking to me about property covenants. That's not our area.
Well, I think we've all assumed at some point that we'd have to change this.
Yes.
But that we needed to grow so that we could change it.
Mission accomplished. We're well on the way. So the other option, to gain any control you feel that you're losing by getting rid of conditional zoning, You simply either make all subdivisions special use permits, it has the exact same process, or you create true mixed use districts that are planned unit developments. The last place I worked, we had 3 different kinds. And I'm going to certainly tell you that what's missing from our ordinance right now is percentages in terms of housing choices between the different types, or a mixture of commercial and residential. You were mentioning earlier on the 55 bypass. I don't want to call the guy by name, but he knows who he is. We have a gentleman who's been in a number of times and taken up a substantial amount of technical review time to discuss a proposal he has. His first questions, the first words out of his mouth: I live and work in Greensboro. This is what he says to me. In Greensboro, we have a percentage. What is the percentage here? I need you to point to it in the ordinance. We don't have it. Can I work on it? Yes. Should I steal from other people's ideas? 1,000%. I'm just saying that's missing. You rely less on this conditional zoning if that occurs.
What about zones of R6, R10, and R8 in one subdivision?
Yes, can and should. Again, it's the situation. I come into the affordable or the less expensive part of it. The estate houses are in the back. Or conversely, you can flip it the other way. The estate houses are at the front, and as you travel to the back, bless you, it becomes a lot more, it becomes a lot more affordable. Well, I'm supposed to say that, right?
Yeah.
I try. So, I mean, there is nothing wrong with a neighborhood that looks like I start out in this place, I begin to afford this place, and when I get to the real house I want, it's back here. That's quite
But
awesome.
you understand, when we started out 4 years ago, 5 years ago,
I'm aware.
People kept saying, well, you don't have enough population for us to move our business there.
We're getting there.
So all of this was a transition sort of thing, not to ignore the fact that we need some portion of lower income housing.
However, R6 is not achieving that. R6 is not achieving that. If that was the goal, it was a swing and a miss. I would be more inclined to either up the number of duplexes, as the state legislature has begun to look at single family and double family houses as quite similar in exactly the way that they took away zoning capability of saying, I need only single family houses here, not 2. They literally changed the law in 2015 exactly in that way. I had to teach it the last 2 places I worked. I can certainly tell you the law has changed. You can't set whether you're having a snout house where the garage is in the front or whether it's in the back. That whole Huntersville experiment blew up in their face, Davidson, North Carolina as well. And it was because they were putting too many dictates in. It has to be Cape Cod. It has to have a garage that sits back. This is what blew it. The Home Builders Association came back with a vengeance in 2011, and they worked until 2015, and they got what they wanted. So duplex is viewed as a single-family house in the eyes of the law for the most part. With that being the case, you get the density without cramming the houses so tight that I can hand Jimmy a frying pan from my garage window, and he can have his wife finish cooking my dinner. This is what's wrong. That's how you get jammed up like that.
Right.
And our houses aren't cheap. That's exactly the problem. Or afford.
I understand.
Whatever the word. I'm sorry.
I understand.
Lower cost.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're comparing it to my neighborhood, everything here is lower cost. At the same time, when you get over to Fuquay, that conversation falls apart.
It depends on who you are.
Yes.
If you are a young couple
Yes.
with one child,
Yes.
you don't want a $500,000 house.
Mm-mm.
And yet you want the benefits of a subdivision. If you are someone who moved down from the north and sold their house for $1 million, you don't want a $300,000 house. You want something with some space and more space inside. So how do you accommodate both of those?
With what you just described, that is literally the 6, 8, and the 10, or the 6, 8, and the 15, or the 6, 8, and the 12 in the same neighborhood, so that I can literally age out as I go through the neighborhood.
But in zones.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Within it. Yes,
that
sir.
makes sense.
Okay. I didn't mean to derail the meeting, but this is like this. This is my passion. This is my second career, and this has been the job since 2001. Moving right along, let's go on my next suggestion, if you don't mind. We have a quirk.
I got you.
We have a quirk. Yes, sir. I've never forgotten. We have a quirk. Our current regulations do not speak to the need to place your water meter or your water and sewer infrastructure at the street front of your developable lot. To my amazement, we just recently had a easement plat, and it's not for 1 meter, it's for 2 or 3. 2 houses or 3 houses will have their meter read on this street, but they will live over here. When you travel across the property line through an easement, through the miracle of easement, you suddenly have a split where each house has their own service. But if I show up as a brand new employee and it's 3:30 in the morning, there's a water break, and you give me the address 241, I'm going to 241. I might have to go to 715 over here to go find the meter. Our ordinance does not require it to sit inside of the pins of the property. It should.
Interesting.
That is a personal passion. Jimmy and I talked about this before the meeting, and we have been discussing it since the day I got here. It's odd.
What you run into is sometimes what you got is the developer of the property is trying to skate extending our services or, increasing our service size. So in some cases, like with 2-inch lines, that you're limited for a loop system, you can only put 40 homes on a 2-inch loop service. If it's a 2-inch dead end line where the line ends and there's no circulation, then you can only put 20 homes. And so what they try to do is say, well, I'll go and get an easement on the opposite road, and because somebody granted them a 5-foot utility easement, and like I said, when the homeowner's looking for his meter, it's like, can't find my meter. Where's my meter? Well, you're on the back street, so you can't walk from your house to your meter.
Well, a simple answer would be to require that the meter is located in front of the residence.
That is the exact thing I'm at.
On the property pins, because you may have a corner lot where the meter would set on the corner lot. So.
Right.
But that is what I'm advocating, and in at least one case of a redevelopment property, we just required that today. Love your idea, thrilled that your meter's over here, can't stand it, it's still going over here because this is your address, this is the front of your property. So I would like to actually codify that because it'd make an awful lot more sense. Before I go into my major budget request, which is going to be on the next slide, I wanted to throw in about 3 or 4 things because I've had an amazing amount of time. So that's friendly. I'm just in a little shot across the bow here. But I had an amazing amount of time to jot down some notes, and I want to point something out. What 160D, when it went into effect in July of 2021, changed the landscape of our land use plan. It is no longer voluntary. It is no longer a lovely document that sits on the wall and collects dust. It is a living document, and it has to be updated at what they call regular intervals. What was determined by the School of Government as to what a regular interval is 5 years, which means if it doesn't happen before then, our land use plan needs to be updated in 2026. It may need to be before then. I have worked extensively with both the folks who provided the last land use plan, and I've also worked with Triangle J one-on-one and developed what I believe were 2 blockbuster plans. So let me say, I have a great deal of experience with land use plans as a consultant. I did them for a living. Obviously, our department will need more staff, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. We have some new expenses as we have a building. We did not realize we needed the money to rent. We did not realize that the building maintenance meant utilities. We have a truck that in our current budget has no maintenance. I've been taking maintenance for our truck out of our supply bill. And I guess in a sense, changing the oil and replacing the fuel filter is in fact maintenance. Is a supply, but at the same time, my new budget, I'm certainly going to be including a request for maintenance of a truck I believe we're using. Also, in terms of the fee and rate schedule, I'm going to tell you that there's a piece that we have never included. Jimmy and I are in lockstep with our town clerk that we have a quirk in the law in North Carolina when you voluntarily annex in. The law says that you are supposed to record it within 30 days. What it does not say is what happens to you when you do not record your voluntary annexation and you take up to a year or more than a year to record said document.
Or a phase of it.
Yes. So what we are trying to do is add $100 to voluntary annexation as a item in the fee schedule, and we would like to record it ourselves. Quite honestly, it takes the guesswork out. When you annex in, within 30 days, if they don't go do it, I want to go do it. But what I do not want to do is find myself in a protracted conversation with a developer, as we were with one most recently, about where's the map Sean signed and where's the ordinance Sean presented to you after you were annexed 1 year and a month ago. It just doesn't make any sense. If you annex it, if you're in, you're in, and if you're not in, you're not in. But I definitely do not feel comfortable leaving it out there as a developer or as a homeowners, not homeowner, but property owners.
What if the developer has to make changes? Is there extra expense of re-recording?
Every recording after that is on them. I'm talking about the initial recording of the land, the meets and bounds of what came in. Because every single year in October and then again in January, we have two agencies to report changes to our boundaries and changes in terms of annexation. If there are people living on the property that the annexation took in, they get added to our population, which adds to our PAL bill in a very minuscule way. It's number of people plus number of miles. Letting you know. So definitely, when I first got here, we had 6, 8. We actually sent out probably 3 very strongly worded emails that said, I'm not reviewing your construction documents beyond this moment until you go record the document that should have been recorded 30 days after you got annexed in. We had 2 people who were the last 2 to come dragging in, and one of those was month 14. That is, I've never heard of that. Just whatever. But the explanation I was given was hysterical, which was, what if we change our minds? I give up. But anyway, the point is, if you don't develop it, somebody will. If it's in town, I want it in town. Over to my request. It was brought to my attention by one or more members of this board that our code enforcement program is weak. And the current weakness is that it is complaint-based. I will say that we're settling one today that was actually discovered in-house and it was not based on anyone's complaint. But if my one code enforcement officer does not spot it in the field and does not bring it back to the office and does not make it a personal project, then that code issue does not get dealt with. The phone can ring off the hook all day, but I'm going to talk about what happens when you do call in a complaint. 10 minutes in the field, seeing it, which everybody in this room can spot 10 code violations on the way home tonight, I'm sure of it. 10 minutes in the field works out to 10 to 40 hours of desk time, including follow-up, interviews, first contact, notice of violation, and all the components. I literally have a brand new planner in my office, and one of her new responsibilities among everything else is to play a matching game between the pictures and the violations, preparing the letters, stuffing the envelopes, and getting the postage on them. That in itself is almost a job. Taking that into consideration, this one officer was probably adequate when we were a town of 3,000 people. When we are getting ready to become a town of 20,000 people, that one officer couldn't do the job if he literally never went to sleep. With this in mind, a second officer, along with assistants within my office, are reworking some responsibilities or bringing in at least a part-time assistant for the 2 of them, would be a much closer approach. I do understand, new guy just got here, and the first thing he said is we're understaffed. I was at least told by one person I should have said that the minute I got here. So 5 months later, I'm saying it to every last one of you. We are understaffed. I have a new planner. I'm thrilled. The problem is she just didn't come through the door as a code enforcement officer as every other thing we need and an economic developer. So what I'm driving
all
at
at
is
once,
you
yeah.
need all those people. It takes a village to build a village or to build a town.
Yeah.
So definitely we need somebody. I put down here 1.5 times the work because frankly I didn't want to brag on somebody and then have them let me down. So let me just say I would like to at least double the workload, but I can promise you that it would at least be 1.5 times the current output. It literally, think about 10 minutes in the field. Literally, when you're driving down the road, if you aren't the one steering, the person next to you can recite code violations like we used to do license plate numbers on these cross-country trips my family took. I'm telling you, it takes no effort to find a violation. It takes about 40 hours to straighten out one. I do want to point out to you all that working somewhat independently, but also working very collaboratively with the police department, which is an effort I intend to keep up, we are literally doubling down on Church Street. We demolished 2 structures there in the past week. One of them was a shed. The guy wanted a variance to keep it. The wall was doing this. When the wind was blowing, I was wondering how that's a structure, but let's just leave that there. We are going to clean up, and our current code enforcement officer has been able to talk people into tearing their own stuff down. That is one step above what I'm used to. My last job was 4 years of doing nothing but going to court and have things torn down. So this program is way more efficient and it's working well, but it can't work any better without more people. All right, last thing I'm gonna leave you with has to do with stormwater. The rules on this are when you either reach 10,000 persons or for several years in a row you grow faster than the average growth of the state or of the United States, you get a blessing in the form of something that many people in construction know about, which is an NPDES Phase 2 permit. And MS4 means it is a separate sanitary sewer system that does not take on stormwater. So, I mean, you get I&I under control, all your flushing is, well, the things that you flush. But the stormwater is being, you want a list?
Got it.
But anyway, the thing that you get in your system is you actually get your stormwater into pipes and you send it somewhere. Okay, so what happens with this is when you get this report, 2 things happen to you immediately. You have 6 minimum measures, and trust me, they are minimal. And then you also have to have code enforcement personnel or stormwater personnel, which I have multiple certifications in this, where you go out, you cite somebody for a violation of your permit for your stormwater runoff, and then you get them to stop pouring paint down the storm drain. You get them to stop having roofing materials going down the drain, that sort of thing. Bottom line is every bit of this dovetails exactly with the stormwater utility fee. It also dovetails with many of our projects. And I'm going to tell you that the first step is that you need a universal mapping through GIS, which in our case, at the last 2 places I did this, it was done by Triangle J. Want to throw it out there. This isn't an advertisement. I'm just telling you they did it. The cost was less than $10,000, and what they did was they mapped our entire drainage system as well as the sewer and the water system simultaneously so that we could actually brag that we had a system that could go up on GIS as part of the county GIS that showed you the location of stormwater conveyances as well as our water and sewer infrastructure. Now, what I'm saying is it's like a 3 or 4 or 5 year thing. It doesn't happen overnight. But the point is, when DEQ comes knocking on our door and says, guys, you grew enough, and you now have enough rooftops that you are deflecting enough water that you're causing a water quality problem in your town, this permit is next.
What is the standard for the population to, in other words, how do they determine that you have 10,000?
They determine it through their own estimates and the U.S. Census Bureau.
I see.
Now, I will tell you this, the entire Falls Lake area that included Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Butner, Creedmoor, the place that I worked, Wake Forest, every bit of that was assigned one of these Phase 2 permits as a joint group because the growth there was ruining the water quality in the lake, which is a primary drinking water source for the city of Raleigh. It is what's going through my shower tonight. With that in mind, soiling that water was a problem. My job in Creedmoor was to keep it clean of nutrients up on my end and then deliver to the lake water that the city of Raleigh could use to treat my house and many, many others. The point is, they didn't have to wait for 10,000 people. Creedmoor didn't have 10,000 people when we had a permit, but we sure did have to apply for one, and that was handed to me.
Do we have such a grouping down here?
No,
Okay.
this will be by city by city.
Okay.
Certainly, you might want to consult with Holly Springs because their stormwater administrator is one of my best social friends and work peers. And I'm going to say that Daniel and I work together very closely on a number of things. Triangle J actually has a group that is a support group for stormwater systems that have an MS4 permit. So I was a member of that in good standing for quite a while. Handled their publicity campaign as well.
How do we prepare for that?
Well, the first thing we prepare for is we make some arrangement to find out the cost of it, having this mapping done.
Haven't we done some of that, Jimmy?
You've got most of your water and sewer guys.
Stormwater. This
Okay.
is every ditch, every culvert, every stream,
Well,
all of it.
We'll save enough. Where would the stormwater go if we don't send it to Lillington?
You send it to somewhere. The point is, if your runoff is hitting the waters of the United States, you're responsible for what is in it. When you hit 10,000 people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I did want to tell you that based on my career and my experience and the certifications I brought to this job, I came here waiting to hear that you want to do it. When I heard about the stormwater utility, I thought, great, 8.5 years of experience. That was my gig. Got it. Then I went and looked and said, ooh, hope they haven't changed the rules because I sure hope we're not growing so fast. This is getting ready to happen at the same time. Because again, when they dropped it on Creedmoor, the announcement came in January. The program went live in August.
Well,
The state
Okay.
has a great sample ordinance. There's a number of resources available. It can be done. Meh. But, you know, again, oh, and I'm sorry, as we get pulled off onto that project and others, back to my pitch for more staff. One guy can't do it all. I'm wearing the uniform under the here. I can tear it off, fly through the air in my cape. But I'm just telling you, that can only go on so long. There has to be folks under me who can free me from the desk.
well, I must say the other managers are not as entertaining as you purport to be.
I work on it. I'm also preceding the finance, which should be quite frustrating and upsetting.
Okay.
Says the man who ran how many minutes over? I'm sorry, do we have a, how long did he run over? Was it 12 minutes? Was that what I saw on my? Yeah, okay, just letting you know.
You all are
All
important.
right, children. Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I have to go home tonight and digest all that.
Yeah.
That was way much more than
I
I.
should have said your mind, but they have been fantastic working with us. Just a phone call away and they're there.
Let me tell you, y'all have done a lot on Church Street, a lot. So,
Yeah, here. Right
That's the
on.
least I could do.
thank you.
So I assume whatever you need is in your budget.
It will be.
Okay. All right. Monsieur Hans,
All right.
you
Is this even on?
have
All right, I'll just talk how I
you have
normally do,
12
and if it
minutes,
gets to the
son.
mic, that's good too. So set the clock. Well, yeah, I mean, this should be most certainly and relatively short.
Oh, wow.
Comparatively speaking.
that's relatively unusual.
Right.
52 minutes. Supposed to be out at 8. You got 52 minutes.
Oh, well then, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
10
minutes.
Did you say?
10 minutes.
Okay, now there we go. All right.
She said 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Well, all right. So,
Chop suey, 10 minutes.
Breathe.
yeah, say that.
Breathe.
All right.
Y'all quit talking to him.
All right. Okay. So, and allow me to say, after having pizza and whatnot, and so on and so forth, and lack of Red Bull, this is going to take a minute, all right? But 10 minutes will happen.
You're wasting your time.
Okay,
Move
I know,
on.
but I had to explain that. So, okay. So, this right here has proven to be ever so indicative of the importance. Look at the growth. Look at Andrew, look at our growth. Well, we know it. Of course we know it. And so as all of our departments grow, the finance department takes on quite a bit because each department does actually have an impact on the finance department, of course. Well, and in fact, we all work together, so we all impact one another. That's just how it works. Again, thank you for adding all of the significant workload to the finance office. Appreciate that. Okay. All right. So there's that. Yeah, that's good. So the finance department, it is the hub or the cornerstone per se to all municipal activity. Finance relays what we have accomplished, our present actions, and our trajectory. It speaks a language. We know that. It most certainly does. And the language is all here, and it can all come through finance, and that's a good thing right there. So therefore, then the strength of the finance department is the strength to all departments. I think that we had just portrayed that just now. So what does the finance department need to uphold all municipal activity? And so this is what we will discover. And considering I had pizza, I need to stand. All right. This is how it goes. Slide that right on back real smooth. There we go. Thank you. I'm not sure how I'm doing on time. We should time me. I'm okay. All right. Again, it's this is what we will discover. All right, so what we will discover is that and through this of course is a quick snapshot. We're going to go over the budget. We're going to drill down on the budget essentially. That's what we're going to be doing here, and then we will of course speak about matters to address and talk about 2 to 5 years, and then from there talk about farther into the future, which is involved not here. It needs a lot more thought. So if we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So just a snapshot right here. Just a snapshot. Simple. This is the finance department's budget, naturally, of course. And it has gone up compared to last fiscal year's original budget by 15%. And, there are some significant reasons why. One of which being, credit card fees or bank fees. One could ask, of course, well, my goodness, credit card fees, what is it? Well, for the most part, we do absorb the majority of the cost for customers, utility customers, to make their payments online, at home, or when they come up into the office. Yes, this looks perhaps a bit much, although one must also take into consideration that it reduces the traffic flow to the finance office. Okay, we can conduct a cost-benefit analysis on that, and that may take some time, but I do believe that's pretty fair. So there are some other things, and if we go to the next slide, we'll be able to see that, thank you, that again, I was talking about, yes, the credit card fees, the bank fees, and yes, this fiscal year, much thanks to, the board and the interim town manager and whatnot, and so on and so forth, and all of our, thinking here that we do have, we will be having, God willing, a part-time employee, and that person should be beginning fairly soon within this fiscal year. Yes, sir.
Do you see any possibilities for you, for instance, temporarily having a part-time and another department having half-time of that same person to enable us to get a full-time person?
Now that is interesting. I like that. All right. Now who would...
Any
share?
volunteers? Oh, yeah, okay.
I like that. I like that. Yes. So yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. We'll do that then. So, good thinking. So, and we need it. We're kind of a little bit behind the eight ball, not quite, but it's we need to start picking up the pace here. Just a shtickle, a little bit, a bisschen, whatever.
Shtickle.
It's sorry.
There's a word for you.
So,
shtickle.
A shtickle. It's a bisschen. It's a bissel. So, anyways, all right. So, next fiscal year. See, this fiscal year we budgeted this person, of course, is just what a third or no, a quarter of a fiscal year. So next fiscal year, of course, this is another cost that is obviously it's an entire fiscal year, and that is a contributing factor as to why the finance department, the budget is just 15% more. So there's that. There are, of course, your fixed costs. Every department has fixed costs, no doubt. Everyone knows it. Our own households have fixed costs, due progress, utility bills and whatnot, so on and so forth. But allow me to point out, of course, well, not allow me, I'm going to point out that we've got like an audit firm, the financial software, that's it's costly, and then these other dues and subscriptions and whatnot, and most certainly the debt and lease management software that helps us handle the GASB 87, GASB 96 that I can speak, and we can drill down on that one if we don't want to fall asleep. But I think we're going to avoid that for right now. So, okay, so let's go on to the next slide and see. So, good. The variable costs, of course, not all inclusive yet still. The important ones are the courses that our finance staff need to take. Again, this translates into our foundation right here. This is what it is. So the foundation of the finance department needs to be ready for the growth. Well, how can it be ready for the growth? Through education. Are we educated enough? It's a fair question. I know I can learn quite a bit more, most certainly, and most certainly everyone else can.
What is the lead fellow program? You have that up on the screen.
That is the that individual who would be coming from the lead.
The intern or something?
Yeah. The
okay.
Intern, we pay the $13,000 and so on and so forth. So
okay.
That works out pretty good.
Good deal.
That works out. Yeah. That's. Many thanks, Mr. Hicks. that was a very smooth move. Anyway, so there's that. But the education and ultimately the foundation is the focus, because without the finance department being strong, how can the finance department then adequately not only handle finance and accounting in a proper way, but make sure that they are there for the other departments properly, kosher, everything. How? It's a very important question. So we'll go to the next slide and we'll take a gander here.
Before you leave, you mentioned SOG. That's the School of Government at the University of North Carolina, and they are very, very solid in helping out municipalities and to some extent state government in interpreting what the legislature has done and what policies should be.
Thank you.
Hmm?
All too often do many of us, or at least I know I do, I'll use acronyms or whatnot, and it can mean something to someone else, but yet that's what it means right there. So UNCSOG, School of Government, and they are paramount. I mean,
really
every
good.
state has it like this. It's really, really good. And so actually, with UNCSOG, and that lead person that Mr. Hicks had done, we'll be working with UNC School of Government with Kara Melanzi and her assistant, essentially. So it kind of further ties us even closer to UNC School of Government, which is very exciting. So there's that, I guess. Okay, all right. This is a big reason why the education for the finance department is so important. It's the necessity is just, it's grand. And here are matters, just a few, not all of them, by no means, but at least within next fiscal year that can be addressed while everyone's getting their education and whatnot, so on and so forth, is, for instance, the collection of delinquent utility customer accounts. That's something that's been brought up before in our prior meetings. And thankfully, we will become more staffed and more educated and whatnot to make sure to find, again, ways to collect this outstanding balance from all of these utility customer delinquent accounts, essentially, at the end of the day. It is our money. We need to operate like a business. It's very important, very important.
How much of that do you think is because of people who move in, then leave, and go somewhere, other state or somewhere else?
That's a scary question.
Hey, that's what I do.
I couldn't tell you because you're a good point. Even though we have their social, for instance, of course, we need to have their social security number, or we can find it or look it up and whatnot. But yeah, when they leave the state, that's it. I don't believe that we can collect beyond the state.
The clearinghouse is part of the North Carolina Department of Justice, which I'm also a part of.
Okay.
And obviously, they can only sue people within the state as a practical matter. So if somebody takes off, we're up the creek. So
well, it appears everyone's coming to North Carolina, not leaving.
Hey, that's good. That's a good trend. Yes.
Yes, it is. No one wants to go. Well, all right, I'll stop there. All right. So, all right. But then there are other things too that matter, right? So, like the subsidiary ledger reconciliation. Well, what is that? What is that? It's not your revenue lines or your expenditure lines. It's let's say, for example, it's your customer deposit liability line items. So when someone comes and they decide, okay, okay, we're going to rent and we're going to pay yay much in deposit. This is one line item within the subsidiary ledger, whatever, that needs to reconcile against what the software says. So if we're saying in this liability line, if we're saying that we have 100,000, yet the software is saying we should have 110,000, well, that's quite the discrepancy. And in fact, that's kind of true right now. It's important to call these things out. Not always easy, but there are a few line items within the subsidiary, ledger is huge that need to be reconciled properly. And it takes time. It's not easy by no means. Yet one must be educated to some degree, and it goes back to the education that we had just discussed. So too, we need to have, of course, an investment policy. Since my tenure, we started to invest more and more and more. It's a combination of just enjoying the investing aspect of things and the significant influx of revenue coming in, as we can see naturally. It's 2019. We had 2.7 invested, 2.7 million. And now, of course, it's 11 point. Well, it should be 11.4. Okay, yeah, that's right. Never mind. Today I divested some money. All right, so 11.34. But the interest that we're earning right now, of course, we know is phenomenal. It's great. But at the end of the day, there needs to be a policy, especially for the finance director, because at the moment there needs to be checks and balances. There needs to be that kind of thing going on. Right now, yes, albeit bonded, that's good, that's great, and whatnot. There just simply needs to be that guide that the finance director cannot break because the board said, follow this right here. And much of which would help with, it's just simply setting reporting standards, and it's, again, accountability for the finance director. So essentially the finance director, you don't want the finance director to just arbitrarily just invest money, and most certainly not because not in a bank that's not it's we don't need the LGC. We have a very good rapport with the LGC, and we want to keep it that way.
You're saying it's good we didn't invest in certain California bank recently?
A certain one, that's right. Oh yeah, yeah. Those are going to be some lessons to be learned.
Yes,
right there. That's true. Yeah. Thankfully, we don't do that.
Yeah,
we don't do that. So there's that purchasing policy. Also, that's very important. Again, internal control policy, huge. Example being again that as the finance director, should I be essentially posting? Well, no. Should I be cutting a check and then doing bank reconciliation? No. The finance, because that is okay. That's right. All due respect, Spring Lake. There we go.
Yes.
Okay. Need I say more?
Mm-hmm.
So that's very important. That's very important. Huge. It's huge. So there's that. That's just an example, but there's much more. And next fiscal year, those policies, that's the plan. And again, it cannot be done alone. As these policies are being written up, there needs to be some kind of check and balance against what I'm writing, or against what's happening here. Aside from the town manager and whatnot, people within the finance office need to be reviewing this as well.
Have you suggested such policies to the town manager?
Yeah. I mean, the purchasing policy. There was that purchasing policy. There was a conversation.
Yes.
I have now. So, and then of course we just need to revisit the water and sewer rate study. I mean, it's it's something I know that we have had done. But again, the question ultimately is, it being a business, are we at cost recovery, or why can't we make just a little bit of a profit? I mean, I'm just saying, just a little bit of profit.
Yeah,
it's a business.
The water and rates study, sewer rate study, didn't we conclude that basically our rates were pretty much okay? What do we need to do to put that into effect? Just present it to the board again?
Well, it is.
We did approve it.
That is correct. It is in motion. That is very true. That's very true. About a year and a half.
We're supposed to do it every 5 years, right? And we did it about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. Well, most certainly 3 easily. Or if we're talking about with Cecil,
Yeah.
roads. Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, this-
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
right, so that'll actually be implemented.
So I'm suggesting though that the board needs to approve that at some point.
Correct. You're talking about what
Yeah, yeah.
whatever developer comes in, and the builder comes
But-
in, and first lot, that's
Oh.
system development.
Give him the microphone to Jimmy while he's talking.
Oh, good. I'm sorry. After you pointed that, I was like,
Sorry. So I think you've got your water and sewer rates, which goes out to our customers. Then you have your system development fees, which is basically paid for by the builder as he comes in. So developer will develop the lots, and then the builder comes in and pulls the permit. Then he pays basically the water and sewer tap fees. But I think what we also talked about is, like I said, your water and sewer rates. Those are what you have to look at, and I think those are things you have to look at every year. So in other words, if Harnett County goes up on their bulk bill to us, then that may be a pass through to our residents. So those would be things to consider as we work on the.
And this was changed 2 or 3 years ago, so we've had to do prospective.
Well, system development fees are different than from your water and sewer rates.
Okay, that's right.
So every 5 years, you have to review your system
You're
development
right.
fees.
So, in answer to your own question, Hans, just one or the other. Are we operating at cost recovery, or are we gaining anything?
allow me some time to answer that question.
Okay. Come back to me.
Okay.
And Junior, I think I'm asked to say if you can hear us mute because you're feeding back into us, I think.
Your presentation off.
Thank you.
You done?
No.
No, I don't know. The question was you needed to mute because we've got a bad delay feeding back from you on your end.
Mute your phone.
I got
What you watching Facebook Live on?
a
We can hear it. Feeding back from. No, not now.
Let's turn it off.
Okay.
What are your needs?
So we look at the next slide. Well, all right. So the needs are fairly simple. It's for next fiscal year. The needs are education, and most certainly we're thankful for that part-time or however you want to define that position within the finance office. That's going to help a great deal. So the needs for next fiscal year for the finance department, I think it can, given what we will be having, can most certainly meet the needs of all of the rest of us, all of the departments and the board as well. So that's huge. But if we look at the next slide, and aside from a need being that we should have a proper mission statement and objectives and goals and whatnot, and we'll get there. Yet transitioning that part-time customer service representative to a full-time status, that's pretty key. Filling a position of a deputy finance director, that's very important. Never know. The traffic is crazy out there, and I could get hit by a truck, and what happens? Well, you never know. It's coming. So that's very important, because at the end of the day, then you need, the town, we need someone who can go ahead and do budget amendments and all that, adjusting journal entries and all of those things that help keep the operation smooth. That's key. That's absolutely
How is the next to last one different from what's happening now? Compile financial statements within the finance department.
Right. So it would be wonderful so what's happening now is the auditors come in and they go through, of course, all of our books, and then more in the latter part, they primarily work with the finance director, and the financial statements are being compiled over by the firm with the assistance of the finance director.
Would it take software to do that, or?
Yes, sir, I do believe, and the software that we have, Tyler Encode, offers that capability.
Why don't you make that proposal to the town manager so that we can consider it as part of the overall situation?
Okay. That's and right there, that is what would be so beautiful. It would be so beautiful to see Andrew, the finance department, reach that higher level of finance that I can taste it. That's a good taste.
All right.
It is. Yeah, it is pizza. It is the pizza.
Okay, I think you've about reached your epitome.
Okay, all right. Well,
what you got for 5 through 20?
I had to amp myself up because I had the pizza and whatnot. That wasn't easy. All right, we'll just go to the next slide. Yeah. Really? That's tough to gauge. All right. So, thank you. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yay! Let's give Hans a hand.
So, Hans, my question for you, I noticed you had on the credit card debt, we had like $60,000. So I know when I go to a store or to a restaurant, they're automatically going to charge me 3% to use my credit card. They tell me up front. So is that what those fees are for that? So that puts us in the hole automatically in the utility department or whatever they use somebody uses a credit card for. So, is that something that we can, if the board chooses to, just add whatever that 3% fee is, so that way it doesn't affect us?
Thank you, Jimmy, for bringing that up, because I just wrote that over here for myself. Because 9 times out of 10, if I go anywhere to pay a bill now with my credit card,
they charge you the extra fee.
They let me know immediately. You can do that. You can pay your rent. You can do anything.
3%.
But we're going to bill you, and my rent pays are around 30%. So is that not something? I mean, it's a luxury. And I mean, is that not something, Hans, that we could look at doing as well? You didn't hear me.
Sir.
Did you hear me?
Well, I heard the last part, so I think I can kind of piece it maybe together.
Okay.
Which is you're basically essentially asking, hey, why aren't we passing on the fees maybe to the customers?
Right, because everywhere I called today to pay a bill, most of the time they inform me right up front, you can do it, but we're charging you the 3% to put it on that card. It's a luxury
You
payment.
can always pay
business,
it directly as opposed to the credit card if you wanted to.
The customer picks it up. I mean, that's a lot of money we're losing there.
We need to start looking into that.
Okay.
'Cause, I mean, all business. I haven't started yet, but most I'm looking into doing it because it gets expensive.
Okay. Well, now that's savvy thinking, so allow me to write that down and make it happen. And Jimmy, of course, thank you, naturally. Well, the interesting thing is that all of this is just general fund. I didn't split it.
We should be charging the customer for the fee we're paying.
Even in general fund, that's a lot of money. I guess it's pretty close to the same as still.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay, wrap-up questions. Who is wrap-up? Anybody?
I have one thing to put out there to all of you
That
are
can be
here
a wrap-up.
right now.
Yeah.
Not expecting an answer right now. But a lot of things that I'm hearing, and I think it's something to consider with all of you in your positions. I know you thought about who backs me up if I'm not here today, or Han says if I get hit by something and I can't come in. I'm hoping that we have a plan sort of in place for what does happen. And I know
Exactly.
that some of you are also getting closer to retirement age. Or you have thought about, is there somebody in my department that is learning all this fount of information and that I could pass this on to? Because the transfer of that and replacing you is going to be immense. And I just want to make sure that we're thinking of those goals, Richard, as far as, again, if you should take sick next week and couldn't be with us for several months to recover from something.
Or have you documented it in writing?
But also, like I said, grooming for the future as well, because I just left the
Exactly.
job and they panicked because there wasn't a person ready to go right behind me that had been educated up to that level. So I'm just not wanting an answer. I just want to make sure it's on our thoughts.
I would like to counsel you to the extent I can. We keep throwing around figures like 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 population. Our experience over the last 5 years that we were going along at 4,800, 4,900. Now all of a sudden, everything progressed. And the problem was we had a lot of extra expenditures, and we had not yet gotten a lot of the income in to cover those. It seems to me that one of your biggest duties, and those of whoever replaces you, and not that we're thinking about that, but at whatever time, is to plan an incremental response to that. Not get caught by all of a sudden having to throw out all the software and do something else, or throw out all of the program and do something else, but to understand how you can, for instance, buy the software and not use all of the facilities of it yet. Try to accommodate, if you will, by compartmentalizing, putting things into compartments that you can access in the future when you need them. So I challenge you to be thinking all the time about how to address the future, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow morning as well. Is there anything somebody was about to say something? Yes.
I guess I was just finding the word, possibly maybe what we were thinking about was succession planning. Yes. Which is really a good idea.
Well, and it's also an opportunity for whoever is in the position at the time to reevaluate where they are. Okay? Because if you think about handing off, it's like a football play. You don't want to just throw the ball over to somebody. You want to follow through so that they have a good chance of getting the ball down the field. So we're in an exciting time in this town, and we most of us have been here during the time when there was no growth relatively. So we have to adapt and begin to understand, as we already have been forced into, what's necessary as things come flowing into us. And we only have one person where there needs to be three, and how we adapt to that. That's what I want you to be thinking about for tomorrow morning. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? What do we need to do? So tomorrow ought to be an exciting time. Let's see, who is involved in the morning? Just the.
Richard, that sounded exciting.
Me, myself, and I'm excited.
I yield to the epitome of excitement. But okay, so
my intent in the morning, it will just be myself and the board.
Okay.
The clerk. The staff has the things they need to be working on.
Okay, so does staff come back tomorrow? Or no? Okay. So anyway, on your own time, be thinking about where we're going here, and not just, oh my gosh, I've got to get through this day's duties, but we've got to prepare for what's coming. Anything else?
If I told you about license plate readers and subdivisions.
Yes, I think we got that.
We'll bring it back up.
I've seen those on detective shows, but you know, that's television. All right, we need to move into a special segment of this under General Statutes 143, 318, 11A6. If someone would make a motion to adjourn and to proceed into that special part of the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
All right, and to proceed into what I just said. 143, 318, 11A6. Okay. People, you've been most kind. Thank you for your time. You've obviously spent a lot of good time thinking about this stuff. There are going to be more times when you're going to have to dig deep, and they're going to be quite, in addition, times when you're going to be so excited to be around this town. So, with that in mind, I send you forth, and we will take a quick break and then go back into closed session. Is everybody in favor of that? Okay. Yeah. All right. All right.